Hey everyone, I'm Timur Hussain, Managing Editor of Gamespot.com, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Play for All Showcase, brought to you by Gamespot and The Mix. In this showcase, we're going to be highlighting developers that represent the bright future of video games, boosting awareness for games and teams that haven't had as much visibility as they deserve. More importantly, we're highlighting games and teams that encourage inclusivity, tolerance, and togetherness at their core. All the games in this showcase are made by a diverse set of creators that have important stories to tell. These are all games that made us think, smile, get excited about, and feel good about what games have to offer. And we hope you feel the same way too.
What is poppin', everyone? My name is Justin Woodward, co-founder of The Mix, the Media Indie Exchange, and the independent game development team in Terabang Entertainment. You guys may not know, but The Mix and GameSpot have teamed up for over 5 years now during E3 to showcase some of the most interesting indie titles that have graced our screens, with interviews and trailers from developers from all over the world. This showcase is no exception. To the sentiment that Timur expressed, our goal is to really shed light on some gems hidden or otherwise that you may not have had the honor of checking out. So with that, let's get started with some up-and-coming game trailers and hop into our first interview with Zalaver Nelson, who will dive into his new game, El Paso Elsewhere. Let's hit it.
Hey, let's do this. Okay, start out strong with clones. Activate the structure system. What you have made for this, I don't know. This is like a roguelike game. Yeah. Nice puzzle stuff. That seems pretty cool. It's on a 2D plane, but you can move it. Almost. Choose a safety. This seems like a pretty interesting game. I might even check this out. There you go. Safety. Look at the demo. Switch Humble Store. Oh, it's on the Switch and Steam. I definitely will check this out. Okay. Oh. Stepping to the dark side. Mine's this. What's this on Steam? Interesting.
What is the most powerful drink around the world?
What the? Are you? Is Coke fighting Pepsi? Is Coke and Pepsi really having a fight? Like, geez, I know there's a war between the two, but I did not expect Pepsi to have a war.
Enter your name in its maker.
The lonely play is Coke versus Pepsi. It is actually pretty good with the combat. Like, I was expecting this to be like a silly type game, but that's actually solid gameplay. the hell came up with these games, man? I like them. We need more games like this. Forget all the serious games. Indie games is the way to go. Now do something else. What trick is that? Wait, I just noticed he has a gun. Like, super Jinkos. Like, man, could you imagine a soda can runs up on you with a gun?
Here's the
Tells
story
you to
about
Windows
Billy,
Pockets.
the quiet kid sailing at sea.
I like
One
this
morning
song.
while
Kind of reminds
fishing,
me
the sky
of
suddenly
Update.
turns to gray, and all the colors fade away. Rainbow Billy, the curses of Leviathan.
What's wrong? This seems like something I might check out.
I'm in a two-story motel in El Paso, Texas, that gained another 46 stories yesterday. All below ground. It's extremely haunted. And Max is at the bottom. Dracula. Lord of the Vampires. She's waiting for me.
Like zombies, werewolves, vampires.
Would you believe that this is a love story?
Probably. I mean, I can see the time it's a love story. El Paso everywhere.
I love a person who respects the classics, and we have Xavier Nilsson Jr., director on El Paso Elsewhere, rocking a Toe Jam and Earl t-shirt. How you doing, Xavier? Tell us about your t-shirt.
The developer of Toe Jam and Earl gave it to me. I had the fortunate meeting him. He was like, "Do you want a t-shirt?" I was like, "Absolutely." And now this is one of the most treasured things that I put on my body.
All right, Xavier. We're not here to flex. We're here to talk about your new game, El Paso Elsewhere.
Which is itself a flex.
Which is a huge flex. Like, I'm making a game and I've got a Told You I'm an Elsewhere t-shirt. Wow, living a great life. So, you are from Strange Scaffold, a really cool little studio, and you've made a bunch of exciting games, but the one we're talking about today is El Paso Elsewhere, which it basically sold me on it the moment I read the description, which was supernatural neo-noir third-person shooter. I was like, I know exactly what that means, but there might be some people out there who are like, what the hell does that even mean? So tell us, what does that mean? What is El Paso Elsewhere?
It is a spiritual successor and evolution to classic shooters like Dead to Rights, Max Payne, and anything that goes bump in the dark, really. We're taking noir conventions and that genre and this very kinetic, physical way of interacting with the world in slow-mo and applying that to a nuanced story of monsters and love and of fighting your way through hell floor by bloody floor.
Awesome. What other games are out there, whether it's AAA or indie are you looking to beyond, the obvious inspirations like Max Payne, as things that are inspirational to you when you're making this game?
Unexpected influence is the Die Hard trilogy for PS1.
I love that game. I love that game.
That's why we're set in a motel, and that's why you're fighting in this bloody, darkened void. Not to get too personal, but a huge piece of this project comes from the idea and the fact that you can be anything in black these days, or at least that's what you're told. You can be president, you can be an astronaut, you can be a game developer. The one thing you can't be is black and angry. That's terrifying. That will terrify supportive white people. Being black and angry. Being black and justifiably raging against a world that itself is destroying not just people who look like you, not just your family, but also anything that doesn't fit into this very precise mold of how you are supposed to behave. So, long story short, we're making an original hip-hop soundtrack, including such lyrics as, "Terrorism is easy, be black in public," because there's nothing that more clearly expresses fighting through hell forward by bloody floor than some good old-fashioned hip-hop.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping that through the gameplay, through the narrative, and through our audio layers, we are delivering the same sense of freedom of expression and critically feeling badass, even if you're just sitting in your room in your underwear.
Yeah, it's that
playing
feeling
the game.
It's that feeling of knowing you can be yourself and be okay. Because I remember having that same feeling where I was like, I don't have to keep up with pop music just to fit in. I can just listen to rap if that's the only thing I want to do. And I remember I had that kind of realization around the same time Until the End of Time came out, Tupac Shakur's kind of album, and I just blasted the shit out of that album, and it was one of the best months of my life.
I was just to say, so we're talking to people who don't understand that a song like The Police isn't like, hey, we're going to jack up the police. It is an expression of, I cannot do anything against this overwhelming fascist force.
Yeah.
But I can rap. And you're going to hear every amount of this justified fury and rage expressed through music.
So, Olivier, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk to us about El Paso Elsewhere. Hopefully we get to see more of it very, very soon.
As a big fan of the classic Max Payne, I am definitely interested in Oliver's team take on the genre. Next up, though, we have a developer that hails from the Philippines developing a tasty game for your senses. Every time I see a game that has to do with food in 4K, it makes me want to grab my phone and hit that DoorDash button to hop right in. But let's jump into some more trailers, and Tam will interview Chikon with Soup Pot in our next developer interview. Here is a world premiere.
To block people. Seems interesting. Block them. I'm sure it's not that game, but it seems spotty.
In the past, I worked on serious and political games like Headliner about fake news and its effect on society. Following those topics has been very draining, both mentally and emotionally. I really needed a break, something that would be silly, colorful, and gameplay focused.
Hi, my name is Jakub, and I would like to tell you about our game. What the?
What's a better idea than a game where you play as a little cloud and ruin everybody's day? Limiting our protagonist to being a cloud was an interesting design challenge that actually spurred a lot of innovation. Sure, we can rely on weather powers like rain, snow, or tornado. What about different rain modes? What if you could rain acid rain and corrode vehicles? What about raining oil and propagating fire? What about raining coffee to mugs of tired office workers? And then we realized, why limit ourselves to liquids? Why not rain bread that attracts pigeons, or hands that can pet dogs? Why not rain swords and go on an epic adventure, solving quests and exploring dungeons? What if other games got invaded? What if you were sneaking through a compound a la Metal Gear Solid? Or maybe Silent Hill,
So
like
Snake
Monster.
became
Forcing ourselves to be a
Silent
cloud
Hill.
gave birth to many unusual
What?
and hilarious ways of subverting
Hill
player
cloud?
expectations. Always
Solid
expect the unexpected.
Cloud? You play Solid
Winning
Cloud?
Upgrade is out now.
Out now. You might need to check it out.
I remember what I can. Sometimes it's difficult. But when I do remember, I remember everything.
Just to explain to a little boy.
The sounds.
I have 4
Words. Words are how I connect my memories. They are what tell me I'm still me. I must hold them close
He's like,
before it's too late.
is he done? Spiral, first episode. That's gonna be like an episode of the game. He's like a solid game. I'm proud of getting it. Also just, you know. A good time-based RPG. It's real nice. Got this time. Sonic, same already. So really nice graphics. Snake between the war. Laws, Alliance. Alliances. Try the demo and Steam. Demo is available tomorrow. I'll definitely check that out. Are you making bread? Or are you the bread? It's a cooking game. Cookbook. Are the ingredients alive? Looks like you're making like chicken. That's pretty nice. Let's use this. Soup pot.
Cooking is a
Sounds like a nice
comforting
game.
outlet for a lot of people, and
check it
Filipino
out.
studio Chicon Club wants to give you the same warm and fuzzy feelings from their new game, Soup Pot. I'm joined by Gwen Foster, who has requested to be called Penguin Master, but is actually a technical director. How you doing, Gwen?
I'm doing great. Thank you for indulging me in that request.
I like it. I'm always up for a bit of shenanigans, so I
So
super,
you
super
really
appreciate
know.
you doing that.
Now, Gwen.
So my first
Okay.
question for you, Gwen, is
I'll give you
tell us
20
about
seconds.
Superpot. What is it, and why should people be interested in it?
So one of the things that the team itself like really wanted to do. So originally it was just Trina and me, who is the art director of the game. We wanted a cooking game that's just really focused on cooking. So you have games that like Overcooked, but it's more of management of the kitchen, which is still super fun. You have games like Monster Hunter that feature cooking, but it's more animation. But there are very few games, Cooking Simulator is one of them, that are actually focused on cooking itself. So we wanted to recreate that, but the gist is that where we grew up, we actually don't do recipes. And so like it's more of like heart or feelings or the voices of your ancestors. And we wanted to have that in the game. So
No,
we
it's a
actually
reset.
released a
Yeah.
demo last year and people really liked it. So
Is it
we
demo?
we made it a bigger game. It's just super fun.
Obviously, Supot is coming from a team in Southeast Asia where not a lot of games come from, and that means that you have a distinct perspective. How much in terms of when you're creating the game, are you thinking about, hey, this is an opportunity for us to not only put a real cool game out, but also educate people around the world about our culture? And I know I, for one, don't have a lot of exposure to Filipino food, and like now I see this not only as a game that I want to play, but also as an educational experience. How much do you keep that in mind?
The thing is that, and this might sound corny, is that when you're making something, of course, start with what you know. So definitely, like we wanted to do a cooking game, but of course, like if we go ahead and do like Italian cooking, we're not gonna be qualified to do that. And so it's a good coincidence in a way because like we just generally want like more of our food to enjoy. And the thing is that with food, the more like we delve into it, and because like we have DLCs planned that would touch on different cultures, the more we realize that there's just so many similarities across the regions that it's really about ingredients and then like how you do things.
What do you think needs to be done, or what needs to happen for a region like Southeast Asia to become some kind of powerhouse in its own right, where people don't feel compelled to work for companies that are from other countries, but do what you do and put together a stronger presence in the region? What does the development community need to do, and what does the people outside of that, people who buy and play games, need to do to support that?
I think one of the things that hopefully doesn't get me canceled is that because we are from this part of region of the world, there is that like, oh, this game isn't worth this much money, and then developers also fall to prey that like because this is the notion of games like this that we are of lesser quality. Like even though we're just as talented, that they price their games too low, and then which like to a consumer also thinks that like, oh, this is too cheap. Like maybe it's not worth my money. So that's one thing. Like both from the consumer and players, developers perspective, like in terms of business, you see so many innovative games come out and like kinder and just more fun games coming from the West that people in Southeast Asia or any other region that doesn't have a similar access, they do also have those ideas, but they're not exposed to funding opportunities. They're not exposed to the right people. And Twitter does help, but at the same time, uh, you just you have to have a strong heart and a thick skin to like get to a point where you feel like you deserve it. That hey, that's basically what happened to us is that hey, there are no games that don't have recipes. That literally have a cooking game that has no recipes, or it's just like hey, here are ingredients, do whatever you want. But yeah, I think that's mainly the thing that people, the developers themselves, have to feel like they deserve it, and at the same time, they just have to make a really great game that hopefully, if luck falls on them, is something that everybody will get to love and enjoy to play.
So yeah, there's opportunities to support developers in these regions, and it doesn't mean getting something that's alien to you. It means getting something that's fresh and unique, and in a lot of cases, something that you already know, but coming from a new angle, which is always good.
Thank you. Also, like this is super fun, and thank you for giving us this platform and giving us this opportunity.
All hail the Penguin Master. Thank you.
Now I'm extremely hungry for some hot pot, some pho, some ramen, some chicken noodle soup. I don't even know. We have another set of sweet game trailers and reveals for you to sink your teeth into. And then we'll be talking to the dev team behind the classic RPG-inspired artistic fever dream, She Dreams Elsewhere, from Davion Gooden and Studio Severe. Check out the trailers, and we will be right back.
That's nice. You're looking top down, and also on front of you. Top down for her, and then up front for his perspective. It's cool. It's a really interesting, design, top down, also. Just to come.
Welcome to Lahaina, a wonder of endless beauty and nature. Let your troubles melt away on this tropical paradise. Relax your mind and soul on one of our breathtaking beaches, or stimulate your adventurous side with exciting activities found all over the island. The Aloha spirit will leave its mark on you and keep you coming again and again. Get ready for an unforgettable experience that is sure to bring you peace, serenity, and plenty of magical memories.
That gives me peace and serenity.
Lahaina, the destination of a lifetime.
Yeah, let me go. That seems like a nice game, so peaceful, just go on vacation,
I will now
relax.
gauge your interest
I like
in
it.
multiplayer by simulating a multiplayer experience. I am helping. We are doing this together. We are friends. We people bond by doing activity.
I'm Gwen Frey, and this is Labrat.
Good. You have unlocked a new puzzle. Begin the next puzzle. Good work. Here is your achievement.
You are a tester. Your job is to
kinda
evaluate a
giving me
puzzle game that is being
vibes,
crafted by this artificial
robots.
intelligence.
I am giving you control
everything.
of your very own gun. Please be responsible.
Is it a portal guy? Okay.
Unfortunately, the AI has gained access to more data than we anticipated, and it seems to be generating new games based on whatever it finds.
The place where you live is dark and full of crimes.
What are we going to do? There are so many guns. You have nothing on me.
For updates on the game's progress, you can follow me on Twitter, and you can support us by wishlisting Labrat on Steam, or by signing up for the closed beta at labrat.study. Thank you.
Yeah, totally isn't. Totally doesn't remind me of Portal. There's a beta. Okay. That's study. Yeah.
Welcome to Palm Mall. We're proud to welcome you to your home away from home. Grab some friends and head down to Watersons, where you can shop till you drop with the best deals in town.
feel like they got a little.
Visit the world-famous Paradise Cinema, featuring wall-to-wall screens and unparalleled sound, and have a blast with the whole family at Luna Dreamland, featuring
I
our
like the look
newest,
they go for.
most wildest attraction, the Hall
I know
of
that's
Mirrors. Our courteous staff is here to serve you at all times. After all, only the best for our guests. So much variety, so much style. What are you waiting for? We can't wait for you to come visit us.
I don't
Home
like
Mall,
that you say that.
a place to relax, a place to explore, a place to dream.
And apparently a place to die. See dreams elsewhere. So we have a French RPG. I like it. And it's coming on everything except PlayStation. I get this one Xbox. You only get
Indie
one.
games are incredibly powerful because they often tackle themes, topics, and issues that are deeply human, but often sidelined by a lot of the major big budget titles. She Dreams Elsewhere is one of those indie games and is being made by one incredibly talented person, Davion Gooden, designer, director, writer, and pretty much everything else. Davion, thank you for joining. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. You know, the world's still kind of on fire, but other than that, you know, I'm vibing. How are you?
You know what? We will get to the world on fire bit because there's an interesting part of your development that I kind of want to check out. But first, like, tell us about She Dreams Elsewhere. What is it, and what do you want to explore with it?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, She Dreams Elsewhere. It's a surreal adventure RPG about dreams, nightmares, and all types of self-identity fun stuff. You're playing as a woman named Dahlia, and you're in a coma. You gotta figure out like how you got in the coma, find a way to wake up, confront your inner nightmares, and just have like this horrible trippy experience the entire way. So yeah, overall, it's a game about how it's like okay to not be okay, and like just to reach out to other people, like because you never know what they're going through. And all that other fun existential stuff like that.
One of my first questions with this game was seeing it was all you doing this alone, and also seeing that it's something that hits on like really personal themes. And we've seen a fair few like one-person development teams like that handles heavy subject matter. Like Undertale's an easy one to grab, but what's that process like making a game on your own, but also, for want of a better phrase, putting your pains into that game or your kind of like learnings into that game? What's that like, and what are the challenges day to day that people might not know because they just see a game that looks cool and it's like, oh, one-person development team. What is the true human cost of a one-person development team?
It's a blessing and a curse because on one hand, like I've pretty much been able to do exactly what I wanted to do with this game, and I'm like a weird guy with like a lot of like weird ideas. So let's just kind of like do that like unfiltered and just like do me. Where normally in like a bigger development team, it'd be like, it'd have to like pass like X amount of approvals, get past the marketing department, all this stuff. So having that freedom has been like super liberating. It's a little lonely sometimes, but it is fun, and there's very few things I'd rather want to be doing right now. So I'm very thankful for it, but also I'm very, very tired.
So you mentioned earlier that you enjoyed having the kind of autonomy to make the thing your own, but the support is really kind of tricky thing. Do you think we're getting to a stage where developing indie games is being supported by bigger publishers in a more meaningful way? We have the Xboxes going out there to find smaller developers and PlayStation and that. Do you think that it's getting better, and how do you think it could improve? The games industry could improve and support creators with unique voices so that there's more perspectives around.
I definitely do think it's getting better. Like even just the support that like I've gotten from big platforms like Xbox, Sony, or not Sony, Nintendo, all these like other platforms that are just like actually reaching out for like opportunities and just like just stuff just to support what I'm doing. That's like dope, and I don't think you would have like seen that, especially for a game like this, like even like 5-10 years ago. So that's a really big step. With that being said, we still got like a hell of a lot of work to do, and I think that really comes down to like who is like working in the industry, who are like the gatekeepers of like this industry, and like yeah, like who is like funding these projects, who is like getting these like deals like signed, and it's a matter of like actually like going out and like actively doing the work and like reaching out to like a more like diverse like just creative squad, actually going out and like putting your money where your mouth is and like just funding like actual projects, like not even in like the tens of like thousands. I'm talking like millions. Like why isn't there like a Cowboy Nights Fund that like Xbox has, which is like funding like AAA games like made by like diverse teams. I know it's like happening in the background, but like we could do a lot better. I think. And it's crazy because like even like developers who are like they might have like a few more people than me, but like we're still kind of doing the same thing. We're like the same age, like same experience, so like they're still having like trouble like getting money. So it's like, what is happening here? I don't know.
Yeah,
Video games are weird.
there's definitely room for major publishers and platform holders being louder about doing it, because and giving people avenues about reaching out to put themselves forward, because I feel like it's happening in the background, but it shouldn't be in the background. It should be in the foreground, so that people who may have these ambitions know that there is a path there, right? There's like almost like there's gatekeeping by not talking about it enough.
Right.
And we should be in a industry that is open about it and welcomes it. But yeah, I hope that we get to a stage where that is possible, and hopefully games like She Dreams Elsewhere does kind of help push that kind of path forward. Davion, thank you so much for taking the time out of your incredibly busy day to talk to us about She Dreams Elsewhere.
Davion's development journey with She Dreams Elsewhere is really fascinating. He was a part of the Mix's Black Boy.
So I'm not looking about the indie game showcase. I always see people hate it. It makes no sense. Like, it really sees indie game showcase. So, what do you expect? You don't really expect AAA games. It's really called the indie game showcase. Of course, it's going to be indie games. People like indie games. It's not sense. Indie games are amazing. And I like them more than, AAA titles, to be honest. Yeah, this shouldn't be in the background. How the hell does that even look? Okay, that. Are you gonna grab onto that thing next? No? Derby Conga. I mean, do you even call it a conga? I mean, it's a straight line, but it's a horizontal. I mean, it is a derby conga, so yes. What is this like those games? Connect pieces together. Oh, it's there you go. Oh, that's what this was. I told you to no, you made conveyor belts. Is this a Tycoon game? No, I don't want to see many Tycoon games. I don't want to see Tycoon games. This be a Tycoon game? That'd be cool. This actually seems very oddly satisfying. Toppings must be something to connect. So you have to connect the output, no, the output to the input to the output.
Chinatown
No,
Detective
output to
Where do I even start? Well, it's a vibrant, neon-lit point-and-click adventure game set in a future Singapore in the year 2032. It's a dark world inspired by hard-boiled detective films, comics, and novels. But out of all of our sources of inspiration, one towers above all. The classic Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego games of the late 80s and 90s. And these were the games that inspired Chinatown's most important gameplay mechanic, real research. As you play the role of Amira Dharma, an ex-cop and Interpol officer, you'll encounter cases with puzzles that will require you to literally look beyond the game for answers. That's right, you're going to have to consult Google to find the answers to the puzzles that cover a range of topics in history, art, science, cryptography. These cases will also see you traveling the world to exotic locations in search of the next lead without a person of interest. In essence, it's a game that asks you to be a real detective. We hope you'll join Amira as she unravels conspiracies, infiltrates criminal syndicates,
That's actually kind of cool.
a chaotic world animated by a threat.
Like, I like that
Chinatown
concept.
Detective Agency comes out later this year on PC, via Steam, and a few other storefronts.
That is a thing that people do anyway in games. Like, they look up like what you do when they're stuck on a puzzle or something. So why not actually implement that into the game itself? It's a bunch of running. It's a skill shoot. Blind Fate, Edo Moyami. Things like that, then. This one. I like the looks of the animal. That looks cool. There's a fighting movie and also a side-scrolling adventure. And the soundtrack is this is awesome. Games that you see, I might check it out.
It is my great pleasure to be joined by the CEO of Troglodytes Games, Saverio Caproscio, and we're going to be talking about Blind Fate Edo no Yami, a super exciting anime-inspired action game that I love the look of. Saverio, how are you doing today?
Hi, Tamara. I'm fine. Hello, everybody.
Doing good, thank you so much. So, Edo no Yami, tell us a little bit about it. Blind Fate Edo no
It's a
Yami,
nice
let's say the
one.
full name. Tell us a little bit about it. Where did the idea for it come from? It looks super cool.
Yes, thank you. The idea of the game comes, of course, by something innovative that we want to apply in the world of the video games. Basically, the main character is blind, so you cannot see the environment. At the same time, he's also a cyborg, meaning that he can receive, handle data. And with the help of this data and of the sensors, you can perceive the environment, so you can navigate through the level. And we thought that these kind of combinations really cool idea, and it will be welcomed by the public.
Yeah, that's a really cool intersection of two kind of concepts. How does it actually manifest in the video game? You talked about the character being blind and then receiving data. Can you break it down a little more so people who might not understand how that comes together can kind of get a grasp of how the game plays?
Yes, yes, indeed. There are some other concepts. He receives data in his brain about the environment. Okay, so he sees the environment like, let's say, Google Map. So you see everything, but those data are old. They are from the past because it was an apocalypse. Due to the narrative, there was an apocalypse. So now, for instance, the environment has changed after so many years. So yes, you can trust the data that you have, but you cannot trust totally because there is a bridge, and then this bridge just collapsed. It does no longer exist. So we have to retrieve new data and guess where's those new data, the enemies. So you have to kill key enemies. They are machines. They have eyes. They record everything. You have to steal the data from the enemies, so you can see the world how actually it looks like.
So one thing I really love the look of is the action. Can you talk a bit about the inspirations and where you kind of are looking to in terms of other games or other forms of media in putting together the action at the core of Ed and Naomi?
Cool.
Yes, I mean we took inspiration both from movies actually and games. Movie about a blind samurai is Zatoichi, and Blind Fury, if you if you remember those movies. And okay, the settings, the futuristic settings, let's say recalls a bit, let's say just to say Strider and other games like the Ninja Gaiden, other games that we loved when in our childhood. So
I don't
of
know.
course we mixed together.
And there's also one more mechanic to do with sensing and sensors and smell and that kind of stuff. It sounded really fascinating when I was learning about it. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, sure. Being blind, of course, you see the environment, but you don't see the things that are moving on and what is inside. For instance, something is hidden. So you have three sensors: the hearing sensor, the heat sensor, and the smell, olfactory sensor. So you can see the stimulus that are produced by the enemies or by the environment. Now, if the enemy is approaching you, you will see the ripple of the sound of the steps of the enemy. So you will see the enemy is approaching, you can react. If you are stuck in a room, you can use the other sensor to find a way out. So yes, the mechanic of the sensor helps you to navigate through the level and to fight. It's also a component to fight the enemies.
For a developer that is kind of smaller and has this kind of big vision in the same way that a team like yours has for Blind Fate, what would you say? What piece of advice would you give them to take the risk or take the shot at their dream and make a game that they want to, even if they do feel that they might have some hurdles because they are smaller developers? How would you empower those kind of indie developers? What would you say to them?
So yeah, first of all, in my opinion, they should learn how to work together during some jams. There are many. Try to participate in many jams. Then you will see which concept you can work better, which is your reach in terms of cost, time, and production. And then once you have a let's say product you want to work with, well, at this moment you can start approaching, if needed, a publisher and to support your vision, as you said. So let's say start from very very small things. We did, if I can, we start with our first game is Hyper Parasite, and then we moved a bit forward in the world of the indie, just because, of course, because we were known among, we launched the game, so we were able to collaborate with 101 XP for this game with bigger ambition.
That's awesome. So stick together, baby steps, and you two can make a game inspired by Zatoichi and Strider. That looks pretty awesome.
Thanks.
Severio, thank you so much for your time. Super excited to see more of the game and check it out ourselves. Thank you so much.
Definitely my type of game. I want to grab my samurai sword, do a double backflip, and slice foes in half. With our final interview, we will travel to Japan to the hot springs with our friend Derek Fields, co-founder of Waking Oni Games, to talk about his soon-to-be released game, Onsen Master. But first, some more slick trailers and upcoming releases.
Interesting. That's my type of thing. What the duck?
Too far, don't you think? It's time to release the Kraken.
Oh my goodness. Just stop. Just It's a cute ass stuff. I have absolutely no idea what it's called. I guess it's why it's called What the Duck. It's like, what what's going on? You duck, what? I'm Smith. It's a rhythm game for smithing? What the hell? Okay. I am so confused, but I like it. That a giant vulture? What's okay, yeah, what the duck indeed.
Too big for someone so small. You need to be taught some respect. So let me enlighten you.
What the duck indeed? That okay. Wait, I think I've seen this game. Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen videos of this game. There's so much shit. This is a city builder game. Seems cool. Townscaping. Launching on Switch and PC this August. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Waking only. By the way, on series. I mean, I like the game designs already. So you're out in a hospital. So now some of those horror games you play. They have restaurants that they keep horror stuff. Or type, any type of thing. Once yes. Seems interesting.
At a time where everyone is dreaming of relaxing in an onsen, Derek Fields, founder and director of Working Oni, wants you to manage one. Derek, what's going on here?
All centered on being a cozy game, centered on connectivity and bringing people together. Onsen Master was deeply inspired by a love for family films, especially Ghibli films, and I'm sure saying that out loud for some viewers, they might be able to catch some hints on what keenly influenced a game like managing a hot spring. Spirited Away is a film that's very near and dear to myself, my family, and it's something that brought us together on the couch and in the theaters anytime those were brought to our city. And it stuck around with me, wanting to create a game that could center on those same things. What would it be like to manage a hot spring, to manage various spirits called yokai, and the different humans that are also visiting your onsen.
Right. So you mentioned a bunch of inspirations for Onsen Master earlier, and it sounds like it comes from a bunch of different, people and perspectives being involved in the studio and the game. So you've described yourself as a BIPOC studio. Can you talk a little bit about what that means, and also what impact that has on Onsen Master as you create it?
One of the things that I didn't necessarily have growing up were games that included characters that were black and brown. It was always interacting with a protagonist that didn't necessarily look like me. And so I would love to add into the games that are now being represented in media that do have people that look like us,
and be a part of that space.
Do you think we're getting better? And do you think it's kind of being led by the indies in the industry?
Yes and yes. I think things are absolutely getting better. I think there are certainly more games out there that are including people that look like each of us having this conversation now. I think absolutely indie games are championing this inclusion and this representation that needs to be seen across the industry as a whole. And because of that, there are certainly more kind of AAA level games that are including more BIPOC characters, and some very notable games too. And so I hope, optimistic me, I don't want that to stop. I want to see more. I want just it to continue happening.
As people, I know we said that it's getting better, but it feels like is there ways for us to signal to the broader games industry, maybe even the AAA industry, to be like, hey, we really want this, and really break through in a big way? Do you think how do we do that? Do we just support indie developers, or should an indie developer out there who may be thinking about making a game just take the jump and do that thing that they think it might be a risk?
Yeah. When I think of that conversation, there are maybe 2 or 3 components that come to mind. One is the support, first and foremost, and ensuring that we are uplifting other developers who are building games and narratives that continue to add to the space of including BIPOC characters, and that also extends to LGBTQIA+ characters as well, and individuals within those games. It sends a signal. It sends a signal on social media when you start seeing certain stories being talked about and how impactful they are for the community to see themselves represented. I'm not alone in experiencing Miles Morales Spider-Man and how impactful having that sort of representation through and throughout not only the story but the communities that Miles played in throughout that narrative. And that's an example. When you see resounding feedback from Twitter and so on, it's important. I think for the other component, next to uplifting, is ensuring that we can provide resources to indie developers who are pursuant of that same endeavor. Because a lot of the times people who come from these backgrounds are marginalized and therefore don't have the same access to resources in order to produce these ideas.
There is a very, very real cause and effect. So yeah, supporting games where there are BIPOC, LGBTQIA+ characters is super important. Thank you so much for your time, Derek. I think we could talk about this all day long, but
absolutely,
I'm sure you've got a game about making people manage onsen too. So I'll let you get back to that. But thank you so much. Those are just some of the awesome games being created by developers around the world. We had everything from drink cans fighting each other to an action game with dogs to a soothing town building simulator. And that's just a small selection of the amazing experiences that inclusive indie game developers are making around the world. Before we head off, I just want to give a huge thank you to all the indie developers and the publishers working with them who took the time and effort to create trailers for us and then talk to us. And I also want to thank everyone at Gamespot and The Mix for working so hard over the past few weeks to put this amazing showcase together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Tam, so many great games and developers that we shared today. Exclusive and inclusive at the same time, which is great. The interviews were amazing. Thank you all for joining us. Thank GameSpot for showcasing these games. It means a lot to the developers. Of course, I'm also a developer myself. Again, my name is Justin Woodward from the Media Indie Exchange, The Mix at Indie Exchange, and we will catch you later. Peace.
It's really good. That's a pretty solid indie showcase. I really like that. I think after this would be the Game Awards, so I'll see you guys in that